Melinda McIntire is the co-founder of Solo in the Second City, a blog about dating and relationships. She specializes in writing about dating, sex, and relationships for various publications and editing bad online dating profiles. See her after the show. She lives in Pilsen with her 2 dogs, and yes, she is very single. Please welcome Melinda McIntire.
Thank you for having me.
Good height?
Yeah, a little higher. It's good. That's all. Okay. Can you hear me? You good? All right. I am with child. I'm knocked up. There is an infant inside of me. I have never been pregnant before. I'm 32 and never has that tiny-tailed sperm found my egg until now. Mostly because I've been on the pill for 16 years consecutively. And for the most part, I don't have sex without a condom. Unless I'm in a long-term relationship, which I am. A serious relationship for the first time in 6 years. Of course, that's why you decide it's okay not to that's why you decide it's okay to ditch the condoms, because if a child did come into this world, you wouldn't, totally hate it. My second biggest and longest fear is unwanted pregnancy, following birds. That's the story for today. I've often compared the irrational fear of straight women fearing pregnancy like gay men do for AIDS. Not to say AIDS is the same as being pregnant, but we both live in fear of everything you've been told not to do, except straight women can get pregnant and AIDS. Every time anything is wrong with me, I immediately convince myself it's because a baby is growing inside of me. I'm a little tired, cranky, have a stomachache, and forgetful. Child. So why am I so tired this week? Why am I having blurry vision? Why does my stomach ache? My boyfriend Chris told me his names he has picked out for our children. They include all sorts of ridiculous hipster names, such as Sailor, Cobain, and Lincoln. I refuse to name my child any name that is actually profession. No sailors, no fishers, no hunters. And no names of 90s grunge music stars. No Cobains, no Farrells. And no dead presidents I contemplate as I imagine a little Roosevelt or Jefferson or Lincoln. And at first I think, no dead Beatles names either. All those damn kids named Lennon these days. Well, McCartney though, that would be a pretty cool name. Yeah, McCartney McIntire. Oh, that sounds nice. Because, yes, if there is no ring on this finger, that kid is taking my last name. Deal. Go have children out of wedlock with some other woman if you want to name her Sailor Sangster. By the way, this relationship did not work out, surprisingly. My text to him, me. I think I'm pregnant and I refuse to name our child Sailor. What the fuck you mean you're pregnant? You just said you weren't. If I really thought I was, I probably wouldn't text you to tell you. But I'm really exhausted and fatigue is a symptom. Not funny, he answers. Oh, I don't think it is. McCartney McIntire could be here in 8 months. Back in 8th grade, we were forced to pen our own autobiographies because teenagers in Catlin, Illinois, a town of 2,000 people in the middle of the state, had so much to say about our lives thus far. My favorite hobbies include walking to the IGA and gazing at corn. That's what we should have been writing. Our 13-year-old selves were coerced to write about our future careers, which we dreamed and planned. And this, by the way, is totally why millennials are unhappy and unsatisfied to this day. Like anyone at 13 or even 31 knows what they want to do with the rest of their lives. And while we were told we could do and be anything we wanted to be, a quarter of those kids would not go on to finish high school, as my hometown's county, Vermilion County, holds the state title for highest dropout rates following Cook. I started high school with a class of 450 and graduated a whopping 281. I was valedictorian though, of course. Many of my dreaming 8th grade classmates sitting next to me in those tiny wooden desks would be pregnant by the time they were 18. As you guessed it, the county also holds high teen pregnancy rates. But nonetheless, here we were determining our future life careers. My choosings were as follows. Author, which I'd like to say I am for the most part. Lawyer. My dad and grandfather were lawyers, so it was kind of a family business. And finally, an airplane pilot. I've never wanted to be an airplane pilot except that one day that I wrote this. I have no idea where that came from. So, as I'm writing this autobiography, my mom would constantly tell me during my puberty years, I was the happiest I've ever been in my life when I was pregnant with you. While I'm sure that this was somewhat true, what I believe this really translated to mean was, do not ever get pregnant unhappily. The fear of babies who were unwanted was scarred in my brain for life. I saw my fellow Pom Pet carry a tiny baby to class her senior year. She obviously had to drop out of the dance team halfway through the year, the tiny pleated skirt not fitting over her growing belly. She was one of those white popular girls who had gotten knocked up by one of the junior hockey team boys who would move to my town to play their senior year of high school at the local league. While all of us cooed and looked at the tiny cute thing, I watched paralyzed in fear that this could happen to a mere senior in high school. What the hell was she going to do with that kid? How do you go to college? Her life was absolutely over. I lost my virginity at the wee age of 15. I was in love, and dude was a jerk, surprisingly, and he convinced me to give it up. But I knew better than to risk unwanted pregnancy, so we took all the precautions for prevention. And those precautions including 2 condoms. Using 2 condoms. At once, yes. 2 condoms at once. And before you go out and run and buy an extra large box of condoms, 2 condoms actually creates more problems. Friction that causes the condoms to break. We also used a spermicidal foam thing that you put in 20 minutes before you want to have sex because it's so sexy. And because this little tablet would kill those little fuckers before they got close to your cervix. Post-1996, the year I lost my virginity, once science had evolved a bit, it was found that spermicide breaks down the inner tissues of the cervix and vagina and actually causes a higher chance of obtaining an STD. Don't use it. Don't use spermicide. As you can see in my story, sex education in Danville was very limited, and we didn't even come to our high school until after I lost my virginity. And it was all mostly centered on unwanted pregnancy and obtaining STDs, basically to scare you from having any sex at all. And that worked very well, as I mentioned, being that we had the highest teen pregnancy rates outside of Chicago. I'll never forget Mr. Pascal, a tall black man who dressed immaculately in matching red suit outfits with pearl buttons and white crocodile shoes, scaring the shit out of me in health class. If I didn't get pregnant from having sex, I would certainly get AIDS or something else that would quickly kill me. Remember, it was the 90s, and though I was already having sex, I constantly lived in the paranoia of sex providing me with an unwanted child or unwanted disease, though that didn't stop me. At 16, after dating my high school boyfriend for a year, though we had been having sex for 6 months, my mother finally drove me to the doctor. She left the room, and I finally broke down and confessed to the doctor that I needed a prescription for the pill. The doctor examined me my first time, and I lay paralyzed in fear. My doctor was my mother's doctor, too, just like most of us, I think. Would she tell my mom? How would I pick up the damn prescription without the entire town knowing I was a whore? I always made Jeff, the boyfriend from the time, buy condoms as I waited in the car, sure some parent of my friend would surely see him or I. It never happened in my teen years, but just a few months ago, there I was at the Danville Walgreens, getting my birth control prescription filled, and who was at the drive-in window? One of my high school friends' dads. I had just spent Christmas night at their house watching his parents smoke and drinking whiskey, but even then I was super paranoid that he knew what I was picking up. I left the doctor that day to go back to school holding a tiny brown bag of 3 months worth of pills. I had never been so relieved. The fear of the unwanted child was tempered. It wasn't until I took a human sexuality class in college that sex was actually referred to as pleasurable. Sure, we learned about STDs and the risk of sexual intercourse, by the way, but only heterosexual sex. We crafted sexual positions out of pipe cleaner people. No joke. University of Illinois, worth everything. Our final exam included an essay question about the pros and cons of said positions. The The guy I was dating my sophomore year of college sat next to me on his couch while I studied for final exams for the best sexual positions, and he studied Chem 101. He complained to me of being distracted. But I digress. So here comes little McIntire McCartney. A month ago, I had strep throat, and the doctor prescribed penicillin. In big black capital letters on the side of the bottle, it reads, "Some medicines may decrease the effectiveness of birth control pills." Strep throat is the real father of McCartney McIntire. God damn it. Before work in the busy loop, I duck into a Walgreens to buy a test. Maybe I'll go down to the gym bathroom and pee on the stick. I'll sit in the stall and freak out silently and hope no one else heads in while I sweat. I wander down the halls of the Lake Street store. I see the family planning section, which is mostly condoms and yeast infection treatment. Because if you have a family, you get lots of yeast infections, I guess. God damn it, the case with a baby test is locked. Seriously, you lock up $6 pregnancy tests. I look around and I don't see a sales associate, so I turn around on my heels and run out of the store. I am 32 years old and buying condoms and pregnancy tests still gives me a minor panic attack. At work, sitting at my desk between hyperventilating and sweating, I start planning our future as parents. Chris can move in with me. He only works 3 of the weekdays as a chef. We only need part-time childcare. We can move to Hyde Park. Cheaper rent, a nice place to grow up. We can live next to the Obamas. Sasha and Malia can babysit McCartney. Barack can be his godfather. I have good insurance. I mean, I just started a job a few months ago, but they can give me time off, right? Right? The panic begins again. I G-chat my friend Molly. "I am pregnant, I am sure," I say to her. This is an exact line her and I have both sent to each other at least 50 times during the years. She listens patiently and points out I've been on the pill for 16 years and that probably being tired was just because I've been working a lot. I try to stay calm, but it doesn't work. On my way home from work, I stop at Target and spend my last $10 on a pregnancy test. Well, a box of 2. Because we don't believe the first one, why do they have to come in boxes of 2? I don't know. It turns out negative. I text Chris, I am not pregnant. This pregnancy scare is over, and I save the second test for the next time my stomach aches or my nipples hurt. Thank you.